Welcome to Been There, Done That, a podcast we launched to talk about raw, unfiltered founder stories. We listen to so many podcasts ourselves, and we figured that most of them talk about success stories after they happened. And facts and figures get distorted, plus strategies that worked 10 years ago don't work today anymore. We at EWOR wanted to launch something that tells raw, unfiltered founder stories today. And we believe we're in a unique position to do this because every year we support 35 founders to build $10 billion plus companies. We do that as founders ourselves. 40% of our full-time team have launched companies valued between 100 million and 10 billion. Therefore, we want to talk founder to founder with people on how they got from zero to $1 million ARR or from zero to a seed round. I'm Daniel Dippold and I'm the host. I'm not a professional host, but I'm a former techie, a mathematician, someone who's built tech ventures for the last 10 years. And I want to talk techie to techie, founder to founder, to people who have what it takes to create a $10 billion company. And I want to uncover the specific things they did in order to achieve that. And I hope that I can help you with those examples to build your own company. You listening to Been There, Done That. Welcome to the show. So in today's episode, I'm sitting here with Julian, who is literally a rocket scientist. You built a space organization before, scaled it to 85 people. We're going to talk about this later on. And you figured out a way to get to Mars's surface 100 times cheaper, right? And now you're building a box. So tell us more about the box. So what's in the box?
That's true, yeah. So we're building a box, and I can assure you the box is just a box. But what we're actually changing fundamentally is how we get this box to space, and specifically how we test it. And the special thing is it basically acts as a magical container. That means that anything inside is protected from all the certification requirements and testing requirements that you have in space, because that's a huge issue for our target market.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about why that's an issue, how much cost that produces and so on, that people get a feeling for like the magnitude.
Yeah, exactly. So what we really target is in-space manufacturing. And that sounds super space age, but it's actually something that's been looked at for the last 3 to 4 decades already, right? So it's not that new. And we figured out like in the 90s that you can make 10x better semiconductors and 10x better cancer cures. And so when we first started looking at this market, we're like, what the heck is taking so long, right? 30 years just basically doing lab scale research is crazy. That's unlike any technology you see. So we really started looking at what is the sort of hurdle there, right? Like we kind of had a hunch that there would be some kind of hurdle that probably is not being addressed, right? And so we actually started talking to a lot of different users of microgravity. And we looked at 2 things specifically. We looked at failed users, right? So basically we were like, hey, have you tried to send something to space and failed? We want to talk to you. That was the first thing. The second thing is we just talked to people that had never heard of the opportunity before, but that could benefit from it, and to see what reactions we'd get, right? And what we found was that, we told them about the cost of space. And, as you may know, sending things to space, full stop, has gotten very, very cheap, or comparatively cheap. We're talking...
Comparatively is the right word.
Yeah, comparatively cheap. So we're talking right now about 6,000 to 8,000 euros a kilogram. Depending on who you buy from, but basically they were completely non-shocked by this. And this was also not the reason why any of the projects failed. Why it failed was because it was just so damn difficult to get it certified, and the difficulty actually translates a lot into cost. I can give you, for example, a figure from one of the providers that basically does this as a service. They get the launch for free. Launch cost them $0, hosting cost them $0. It's all sponsored by NASA in this case. They charge $500,000 for something this big just to get it through the process, right?
Crazy.
And there's also a lot of incompressibles, so you just wait 2 years, right?
Yeah.
And then there's like tens of thousands of requirements to keep in mind, right?
Yeah.
And then like the people that had failed were like, damn, that sucked, right? And even the people that succeeded, like one guy verbatim told me like, this was probably the best experience we could reasonably have had, but it sucked, right? And then you go to the industrials. Like we went to like, the big pharma companies and we talked to some of them, and the answer was, this is a non-starter. Like we're never gonna, like with that process, we're never gonna scale, right? And look, I kind of told them like, oh, look, it's like 8,000 euros a kilogram, I even told them like 10x that, right? Yeah. And I expected a big response. That was not the case at all. Like they were like, huh, whatever, right?
As long as we can get it certified.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because that's what they're actually worried about. They're worried about how long it's going to take them, how long they're going to pay their people for it, whether they have to completely like adapt a new supply chain to it. Yes. And now we're back at the box, right? Yeah. And again, they didn't ask for a box. They just asked to be isolated from the certification and testing requirements. Yeah. And so we had this crazy idea of, is this possible? And if you ask other space engineers, at least the ones we've asked, they think this is crazy. Some people literally told us this is never going to fly. Right?
Literally.
But my co-founder, he used to work at a few launcher companies, and he had a hunch that this could work.
Yeah.
And well, here we are.
Incredible. And now you have a partnership with SpaceX. You're flying on SpaceX, right? You have like literally every single investor I introduced you to wanted to invest and called me afterwards, was like, this is incredible. How do you find this company, right? So this is where we are now. Yeah. I would love to debunk a little bit how you got there. Yeah. Right? Because it literally just happened the last year and two. Yeah. And that's what this podcast is about. Yeah. Like we want to like share the raw, unfiltered, like this is how we made it happen.
Exactly.
So choose any arbitrary point in time where you say like, this is where like it's probably good to start, and walk us a little bit through the specifics of this journey.
Exactly. So I'll pick right up at the user interviews, because I think the first big sort of nonlinear scale part came when one of the users we interviewed actually just said, I wanna buy this, right? And we're like, I mean, we were celebrating, like we were jumping up and down, but at the same time, like we were like, hot damn, like we know what this is going to cost, and we have like a few tens of thousands in savings, which we're lucky to have even that, right? Yeah. I know a lot of people that start with less, but we had a bit of savings, and went to like, my co-founders went to their parents, and like we had a bit of money, but we didn't have nearly enough, right? Yeah. So that was. But I think then we became really scared. And I felt like that was a good sign that, we just hit some nonlinear scaling trajectory there, right? Yeah. And then that kind of then went to the second sort of big decision we made, which is let's just launch something. And, right?
The deep tech equivalent of get the product out.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Like to me, I spent like almost a decade building deep tech, right? And just like, climbing the TRL ladder, as you're supposed to, like a good boy.
Bit by bit, TRL2, TRL3.
Yeah, but I'd gotten fed up with this. And I think just like software, so just tech has they figured this out. Yeah. And so we tried to apply this. So we just said, look, let's sell, right? And let's build the stupidest thing that can serve like 3% of our market, right? Yeah. And that's what we did. And so we basically put that mission. That mission is about 3 times cheaper than the closest comparable on the market. It ended up being. But it's really dumb. Like it can't do much. Like our customers, like we basically, the goal was, our customers should feel pain on every single constraint. Then we've built small enough, right? And the goal was just, can we actually get the pre-certification done? Because that was a big question mark.
Yeah. So rule number 1 of the deep tech playbook, we're writing the book, right? Because all of the deep tech books suck, as we established earlier, right? Exactly. So let's write the book today. Rule number 1 is just go for MVL, minimal viable launch. Yeah, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And like, I think deep tech has way more to learn from tech than the other way around, right? Like you could reformulate rule 1 in my mind as you're just a company. Like there's nothing special about you, Yeah. So I feel like so that was the major first unlock. I think then selling out the first mission was the next big one, because then we knew, okay, look, we had that customers, then it was go time, right?
Yeah.
And then we had to basically execute. At that point, we're like in July, August, right? We had a few sort of long lead time items on order already.
Yeah.
We had to, like, at that point, we had to raise a round because, again, we had like essentially in space tech zero money. We had to like build a clean room ourselves because we were supposed to use one because, and then like literally like 3 days before, someone broke it. Like someone punched a hole in the wall, which is not great if you're building a clean
What?
room. Yeah. Like not us, but they just called us. We're like, sorry.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
So you rebuilt it.
Yeah, we built one from scratch.
Yo.
Like our head of production was like, don't worry, I've built 3 clean rooms. And I was like, you've done what? And so then we built that. And then it was like, I think when we went to execution, right? That was a massive unlock. Basically, you know, it's August, we got to get hardware out. So we shipped our first piece of customer hardware in August.
Yeah.
And then we had the payloads back and integrated in early December.
Amazing. So rule number 2, go frugal.
Yeah.
Rule number 3, go fast.
Yeah. And I think they're like, it's so easy to kind of look at what other people say. And this is complete platitude, but it's so easy to kind of look at, other people and say, well, look, this is possible. This is possible. Yeah. Like, like I try to always shoot for literally Mars in some cases, right? And worst case, you end up on the moon, which is still crazy good, right? Yeah. So just saying, let's go for it. And yes, did we have to push back our timeline at some point, like 3 months, because our customers weren't ready, like they couldn't execute on that timeline? Yeah. Absolutely, right? But we're still really, really fast.
Yeah.
The way I perceive things is usually like you kind of go, you go somewhat at a linear growth, and then something exponential happens, and then you're suddenly like an order of magnitude higher up, and then and I think both are important. Like they can't happen one without the other. And I think then like the last sort of exponential unlock we've had was kind of getting to know you guys and getting a few other people out there, because I think the thing that hadn't kept up with these unlocks was sort of my understanding of what I was doing, right? Like I knew that what I was trying to do was crazy, right? But I was so used to crazy from what I had done before that I was kind of like, oh yeah, whatever,
Yeah.
And I realized only when I got that sort of validation, and of course it would be better if I just had that validation in me. But in this case, it was really like, damn, okay, like I actually like, this is cool. Other people think this is cool. Yeah. And like, I gotta act consistently with that value, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the current unlock we're experiencing.
And you had it in you, right? Like this is rule number 4, never give up. Yeah. It's massive platitudes in our rule book right now, but who cares? Huh? Yeah. It's true. You applied to EWOR 3 times, right? Like 3rd time it worked out. Yeah. So you knew like, hey, I can make it happen, right? But I guess this was not the only story like where you just had constant rejection, right? Like that's just part of building a venture.
100%. Like the first time we went to SpaceX and said, look, SpaceX, this is what we want to do. They were just like, nah. Like it took them 3 months. Like we were waiting like anxiously just for their response. Yeah. And they were just like, nah. And like not like it's like your engineering approach makes sense, but nah. Yeah. So then we're like, okay. And then we had to completely like revamp what is the actual documentation and sort of argumentation that we apply to this completely new thing from a regulatory perspective that we're trying to do. Yeah. And what it ended up pushing us towards is basically, instead of calling it what it is, we just argue towards this literally being the safest possible case, right? And that is what ended up working out and what's worked out so far.
So give us the specifics, right? Like we want to really learn today how it's done. Yeah. So they sent you an email back and said, no, it's not happening. Yeah. What did you do? Did you send another email? Did you give them a call? What happened specifically?
First, I had a bit of a mental breakdown and got sent home for a day, which I'm someone like, I think generally a very good like measure of quality for how good your organization is average like persistence time of problems, right?
It's a great point. Yeah.
Right. So basically like, it was like this Wednesday or something. We got the email Wednesday. I went to work on Thursday. I got sent home at Thursday at like 4 p.m. because they were like, Julian, you're just not being effective right now. And I was like, okay, I guess. Mm-hmm. And basically, like, I took the weekend off, like 3 days to, kind of
to settle
and just, like, I was like on my bicycle for 2 hours straight. Like, I was just
what did you do? Did you smoke a joint? Did you bike? Did you what was your recovery protocol?
Honestly, okay, like, this is highly individual. But to me, I live like 10 kilometers from the beach. So I went and just cycled to the beach and gave myself a beach day. And then I deep cleaned my apartment. And then I think at the same time, I was like, really, like, this is, again, I'm the 10 millionth person to say this, but like, reduce the amount of stimuli.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and I think that really, like, just calmed my nervous systems. But typically by the time I was back on Monday, like, our CTO and the engineers were just like, okay, this is the approach.
Yeah. There are studies that if you are focused on one object, like your laptop, right, you can still neurologically measure like any other object that is inside. And it is subconsciously distracting you, right? So the cleaner your environment, the more effective in terms of focus you can be, right? So you cleaned your house, exactly. And you went back to the office with full focus.
No, exactly. And on that point, quickly, like, my CTO, like, my co-founder, he likes to say I run on an interrupt-based scheduler. So, like, naturally, like, I am terrible at doing two things. I'm hella single-threaded.
You know that interrupt coalescing is like a productivity function for like computers, right?
Exactly. But so sometimes, like, some interrupted me triggers and I got to do something else, and I used to really try to just lock in and ignore it. But to me, like, actually, like, then going and cleaning up for an entire day was actually like insanely good in the long run. But anyways, I think back to the point of SpaceX, I guess. You just carry on, and in this case, the problem kind of solved itself. But you just have to kind of, I think.
But let's go into the specifics. So you recovered, you went back into the office. Mm-hmm. Did you send them another email? Like, what?
Yes,
happened?
Of course. No, so we first sent them an email. Thanks for the feedback, right? And then we basically 2 weeks later, we just sent them an updated sort of certification and test approach. With what you basically need to submit. And yes, we did have to make some concessions, right? Our first approach was, can we just like do the full like pre-certification, full containerization? And it would have been crazy if that would have worked, right? Like, we didn't expect a yes. So, and of course, like, we deeply thought about, of course, how do you argue for that approach to give it the best shot of survival. But of course, the first time, you know, the second time we were a lot closer. We still had to edit a lot of things, but it's just iterative. And I think with most things you do, the first time you're probably going to get to 70%. And then
if you do it your way, right? And I quickly want to zoom out and like abstractly explain how I think what you did there is absolutely incredible, right? What I think you did is gradient descent. Right? I think what most founders do when they solve an optimization problem, as in can I get SpaceX, they do incremental steps, right? So they say, okay, we have this, let's try this tiny thing. Right? And maybe, this doesn't work. Let's try this other tiny thing on top, right? And you will take forever mini baby steps until you're at the optimum. You just said, let's go the full on thing, like the end of the spectrum. This is what we want to do, right? And they said, it's a bit too crazy. So you jumped a little bit back and was like 70%. Okay, like this is where I believe it is. And did they accept the second time or? No. Third time?
Yes.
Right? So it took you 3 jumps because you did gradient descent, right? Like you jumped around in big leaps, which got you there so much faster.
And it's so funny you should say that, because I actually, like, no kidding, I think about decision making in gradient descent.
Me too.
Like basically, like whenever I sit down and I don't know what to do, I'm like, what is the function I'm on right now? What do I need to optimize for? And what is the sort of dimensions that I was literally thinking about this on the way over, is like basically, like, you know, you got to first untangle your super high dimensional space, and then just figure out the 3 dimensions with the highest sensitivity, and then figure out what the gradient is.
Yeah,
and there you are.
Ideally map your like covariation matrix and understand what's going on.
Although I've completely overmathed this as well. Like,
I think
I'm talking to a maths guy here, so exactly. I should be saying that.
My viewpoint is like the people invest too little into the meta layer.
Yeah.
Of like, how do I do stuff? And too much into like just the like doing execution layer, right? And I think ideally you have great reflection execution cadence, right? And sometimes you just gotta go into reflection mode and math it out, right? I love it. I think it's productive.
Exactly. I think, me as an engineer, right? Like my take on this is it's like you can't be an open loop control. You have to close a control loop, right? And this is the case with any highly complex system, and we are just a highly complex system.
Yes.
Exactly. So you have to have that sort of control loop, right?
Yes.
But yeah, to kind of get out of the maths
because I think we'll back into
I think
out of theory and back into getting stuff done.
What I wanted to talk about quickly with is about the EWOR application as well.
Yes. Okay.
All right. Because as my problem as what I think like is a big problem as a founder, and like one of the number one challenges to solve, is you have 10 seconds to prove you're an outlier, right?
Yeah.
And this is, we can go into cultural differences between different countries, right? Where I'm from in Austria, this is incredibly hard because people culturally don't believe in outliers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's a bad thing. I come from a 400 people village, and the general culture is don't do anything unnormal.
Yeah.
Don't leave the village.
Yeah.
It's not good to leave the village.
Yeah, I come from
why ambition? It only makes you unhappy.
Yeah, exactly. And I come from like the middle of the forest. Like, no joke. Like I cross the street, I'm in the forest, and it's very much the same thing, right? But so I think like reflecting on my path, because I got recommended towards you guys in I think September, something around that.
Yeah.
And like I wasn't like, what changed is I wasn't, on the one hand, I wasn't, I think, good enough at that time to distill down the essence of what I was doing into like 10 seconds, right? And
which is the key exercise, right?
Which is the key exercise, and something that you have to solve, because like I come, and this is I think how I was raised, is it's always like do, don't talk.
Yes.
But sometimes talk is very important.
Yes, but generally the do is more important.
Yeah.
I would agree with this.
But there's a point of optimality. You need both. Yeah.
Exactly, right? It's a digressive function on the one, and once you've done all of the doing, you can get a lot from the talking.
Yeah.
And if you don't like the start of the curve is steep, right? Yeah. And if you just optimize on this, because you're optimizing it at like 2-dimensional volume, right? So like you really need to say, okay, can I improve the talking? And a lot of people that are great at doing don't do it. Right?
Dude, I think next time we got to bring a whiteboard out to explain.
And just draw. Let's just draw it like Cobb Douglas function or something.
No, but and I think then the second time, I think I was still, and I think what was the unlock for me is I just ran into Quinten.
Right.
And suddenly I had a captive audience.
Yeah, and you had more than 10 seconds.
Exactly.
You had a whole dinner.
Yeah, and like he basically by the end of the, like, because he was like, I was playing it cool. Like I was like, like, oh, what do you do? You're the founder of Felix. I live in the Netherlands. I've ridden on Felix scooters like a million times. I was like, big fan of where you work, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then he was like, oh, do you know this EWOR thing? And I was like, well, yes. And I got rejected twice. And then basically by the end of the evening, he was like, I'm investing and I'm telling them they better too. And that was actually,
I remember Quinten giving me a call. I was like, if you're not investing, I will. Right? Yeah. Like, and I was like, Quinten, I hate being pressured, right? Like, and he was like, I don't fucking care. I don't fucking care. Like, and like he didn't, rightfully so, right? Like, because it really got us to like dive into this, right? And then our friend Michael Baum, who started Splunk, right? Who does a lot of space tech. He looked at it and he was like, yes, this is a pretty cool approach, right? And I think what happened for you, you already had it at that point. Right? Like, I don't know, Javi, I don't know, but like at this point, certainly you had it. The only unlock for you was to get everyone's attention. Yeah. Right? And this, in my career, has so often been the case.
Yeah.
I've been so often in a situation where I mathed it out too much. I had like thought too deeply, but I couldn't bring it across. simply, and I never got the tension.
Yeah.
Right. So that in the end, that dinner switched things, right? And suddenly it was all different.
Exactly. And like as an engineer, like I always feel like, like Lenny, our CEO, my other co-founder, he's awesome. He calls it being grandma pilled. Like he was just like, okay, but talk to me like a grandma, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I struggle because I'm an engineer and I want to give context and like also now preparing and sort of preparing narratives and all these different things. Like I always want to give full context, but that's not what it's about.
Yeah, like I think one of the leading themes throughout life is scarcity.
Yeah,
right? Everyone has scarcity of resources, scarcity of time. And you just need to accept that other people don't care as much as you do.
Yeah.
Right? Simplicity is the theme. That applies to the product you built, the way you communicate it. But let's talk a little bit about team, right? I started off with saying you built this 85 people army, right? And now I hear that you went through a lot of co-founder transitions, right?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about that.
So how I ended up with two of the most amazing co-founders is iteration.
Right. It's exploration, exploitation, trade-offs, right? You got to search the option space until you can find an optimum. Yeah.
Exactly, right? And I think where I started in that space was with two high school friends of mine. Mm-hmm. And with basically
the classic story,
right? Like it's so classic.
I know this dude or dudette, right? And let's do something.
And it was in my dad's garage as well. So we're hitting all the stereotypes.
if you're not gonna build the next Microsoft, I don't know who will. The signs are all there.
No, exactly. So, but that was, I think, that's you bias towards sort of proximity of the option, right?
Yeah.
And one of them lasted all of 10 months. Mm-hmm. And basically what happened there was, and it was just us three at this point, right?
Yeah.
I was now 17, and I hadn't been in school. Thank God to my school, they somehow let me pass. But anyways, and we'd been working our butts off. And then this guy, a week before we had to basically ship out the next generation of that prototype to field testing. We'd lined up a whole test campaign in Oman. Mm-hmm. And that guy a week before said I'm out. And also turns out he hadn't done any of his work.
Nice.
So I was like, dude, where's the solar panels? And he's like, anyways, so then what I did is I called up a bunch of my friends, and I still remember to this day, we were just random friends of mine that had never touched electronics before were soldering together solar panels on the floor. And my other co-founder and I, we worked 140 hours that week.
Shit.
And it was
I track my time, so I know how much 140 hours is. So you barely didn't sleep.
Yeah, exactly. It's I think we did 48 hours straight. I was so delirious. I was talking to Caitlin earlier, I literally ran into a wall. It was crazy. And I do not recommend doing this, but sometimes it's shit's gotta happen, right?
Yeah. It's more a function of the character that makes you successful rather than objectively really making you successful.
That's
right. So you gotta rather tame your character because you already have it. You already have the drive, right?
Yeah.
And that drive makes you work that much, but it's always a net negative.
Yeah, exactly.
Sleeping less than 6 hours, in my experience, I've tracked my time for 8 years to the 30 minutes, right? And I know it's always a net negative, at least for me.
No,
right?
exactly. And there's certain events that, you have bias towards, right? This needed to happen, right? But generally it's a terrible idea, right?
Yeah.
But so that was co-founder number one.
Okay,
and then,
let's rush through the other ones.
Yes, exactly. Then the next one, he went off to Stanford.
Okay, we're getting all the prototypes here, right? The first one, emotional breakdown, right? Too much stress probably, I assume. Second one, opportunism. Stanford is cool.
Yeah, and he just simply didn't have the focus. He now works at what is the startup called? A Cognition, actually.
Okay.
So he's a super smart
archetypes.
dude.
Yeah,
but
amazing.
Then we had a burnout, didn't manage energy. Right. Then we had just a guy bad at his job. That was my fault. And then we actually had a relationship breakup as well. So I was actually like together with my co-founder, and I would well, do I recommend it? No. The circumstances are somewhat mitigating.
It has worked, right? Canva,
yeah,
Eventbrite,
yeah.
all stories.
So actually, like, I think it can work. It just didn't there.
Yeah.
And
why not? If I may ask.
Yes, I think ultimately, at that point, I think one of the parts was I had been doing this for 9 years, and she had been doing this for 4, and she was extremely well respected, and like she is cracked as hell. Yeah. But there was just this difference of like I was like the massive like incumbent, and she was the kind of the newcomer. Mm-hmm.
And it affected your personal relationship.
Yes, and it affected the personal relationship. It affected her. It was really, really difficult for her, actually. And then, like, she actually similarly hit a kind of burnout as well. Yeah. And yeah, that was that. And yeah, I think now it kind of like when I had where it led me now is kind of like I had this moment, I think like last March when, you know, with my current 2 co-founders, where like I noticed how hard they were pushing to take their space. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest green flag. I'm a very pushy person. Yeah. I take space, right? Yeah. And I can't deal with co-founders that kind of need me to give them space. Yeah. So I need people who push, and they were just like, no, Julian, you focus on this. I will do that. You go home now, you clean your house, go to the beach, recover, and then we try SpaceX again. Yeah, exactly. That kind of behavior. Exactly. And I think at this point, like I've been sent home by the team like 2 or 3 times because they were like, bro, you're not being effective anymore. You got to like when we were shipping the satellite off for vacuum testing, like the team they were on a 30-hour shift. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know, because you read in the books and, you know, in the media, you're like, oh, the CEO is supposed to like fight from the front and stuff. And I do genuinely believe in this, of course, right? Yeah. But I've realized that there's a next level to this, which is basically your team sees through this and is like, you're just here for posturing. Go home. Yeah. Sometimes this, and sometimes you try to fight all battles. Yeah. And you got to pick your battles. Yeah. Right. And your ability to reject battles is inversely proportional to your stress level. Yeah, I agree. I think that's what really like what's so difficult to learn is reject while being stressed. It's the most difficult to reject more stress. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And it's a downward spiral. And at one point because rejection takes energy. Yeah. And when you're stressed, you don't have that energy, right? Yeah. And that's the like reverse connection. Yeah. And it's easier to just, you know, hit like control space on your Todoist. Shout out to Todoist. They're awesome, by the way. Massive. Same here. And just add that ticket and it's just blocks you. I've now realized like my optimum amount of tickets at the beginning of the day is like 8. It's not 25. Yeah, and it's a big it's a definitory thing, right? Yeah. Like how do you define what a ticket is, right? Like how long do you spend? But I guess that goes beyond what we can discuss today. All right, so let's maybe bring it all together again. And like we've talked about how you're productive as a founder, how you push, how you build the right team, right? How you deal with rejection from customers, but why does it all matter, right? Like why does what you do here, like how does that affect me today? Yeah. It's a very funny question because I sometimes sit there and I'm like, I'm just trying to do X. Why am I dealing with this, right? So I think it's so important to just look forward. And for me, really, like my vision is really look, you know, every generation has their unlock. Yeah. The .com generation had the internet. Now, I think over the last couple of years, AI has been obviously huge, but I think for our generation, I think we need to aim higher and we need to aim for space, right? That's our unlock. And what I'm really passionate about with what I've done before and what I want to do now is it needs to be generally useful, right? And so the future that I'm building towards is I want to be able to give you the opportunity to ship something to space tomorrow. And all parts of that sentence are important. You, Dani, who's great at building EWOR, but maybe hasn't built a payload before, right? And tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right? Both of these are important. And ultimately, what I want to enable with this is that space becomes a manufacturing platform, right? Because the materials we can make, if we can just turn off gravity, are insane. I said in the beginning, right? But this is something that I genuinely feel like can be a part of the next industrial revolution.
Yeah.
And it might happen in space.
And not just materials, right?
Yeah.
New molecular structures. You
Yeah.
can build completely new medication, right? Like a huge pharma unlock just through what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Like I met this person that just instantly is making what's called nanospace materials. And they're just a drug delivery platform that can make drugs like an order of magnitude more effective for like a whole bunch of applications. It's crazy what you can do. We've barely scratched the surface. And I want to make sure that this just becomes kind of boring and commonplace.
Yeah. The Amazon of space, can you put it like this?
I think that, comparisons are always overused, but I like to say space as easy as mailing a package.
As easy as mailing a package. Let's leave it there. Thank you so much, Julian, for this awesome session. I really enjoyed it, and I hope everyone who listened did too. Thank you for listening to Been There, Done That. If this conversation resonated with you, there are 3 things you can do to support. First, you can subscribe. At whichever platform you're listening to this, there should be a subscribe button. It would mean the world if you subscribe. Secondly, you can share this with someone you believe would benefit from the content of this conversation. And thirdly, you can go to ewor.com/signals and stay up to date on all things EWOR by subscribing to our newsletter. Well, thank you very much for listening today, and see you at the next episode.